Good evening, college football fans, and welcome into this Week 13 update for the college football season. I'm Garrett Green, here to bring you all the latest scores and information about Week 13 in college football. And this week we had a couple of teams at the top of the BCS rankings who were tested, starting off with number 2 Auburn playing number 11 Alabama in the Iron Bowl. This is a game where Alabama was actually up 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. It was up 24-0 at one point. An interesting note, no team had ever come back to beat Alabama when being down 24 points. Well, Cam Newton would have his say about that, as Newton goes 13 of 20 for 216 yards for 3 touchdowns and tacks on 1 rushing touchdown, as Auburn comes back and beats Alabama 28-27 in the Iron Bowl. His counterpart, Greg McElroy, goes 27 of 37 for 377 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is a career high in passing yards for Greg McElroy, who would not finish the game as late in the fourth quarter when, as he was sacked, he hits his head on the turf as he's thrown to the ground, stands up, woozy, stumbles off, was diagnosed with a concussion. You hate to see a senior like that have his last game in like that, so our best wishes do go out to Greg McElroy. A couple of other notes about this game. Alabama was held to only 69 total rushing yards of offense, and a couple of other games that they have been held to, and all 3 losing efforts this year. Alabama has been held to 69 rushing yards against number 2 Auburn, 36 total rushing yards against South Carolina, and 102 yards rushing against LSU. So the key to beating Alabama appears to be keeping those 2 dynamic running backs they have in Trent Richardson and Heisman Trophy winner Mark Ingram to under that 175-yard average that they have for the season. And Auburn's offense has generally been the story, with Cam Newton, making his stake for the Heisman Trophy. However, the defense of Auburn stepped up in the second half, only giving up 67 total second half yards, as Auburn does win in Tuscaloosa 28-27. Now, the number 1 team in the BCS rankings was the number 1 Oregon Ducks, and they were playing number 21 Arizona. This is a game where Oregon was down 19-14 at the half. However, they were sparked onto a 34-point second half by a Josh Huff 85-yard touchdown run on the first drive of the second half, as Oregon cruises past Arizona 48-29. Now, what's interesting to note is that with that quality win that Auburn had against Alabama, they jump over Oregon in the BCS. They now lead in the BCS by 0.0002 BCS points. Now, of course, this is negligible, as all Oregon has to do is win in the Civil War next week against Oregon State, and all that Auburn has to do is win against South Carolina in the SEC championship game, and it is assumed that both teams will go and play on in the national championship game. Now, when we all watch college football is upsets, and we had a fantastic game on Friday night between number 4 Boise State and number 19 Nevada. Boise State was up 24-7 at the half, and this looked like a standard Boise State game. They were going to roll early, score a lot of points, tack on more in the third quarter, and just kind of coast through the fourth quarter. However, Nevada has a 17-point fourth quarter, including a touchdown from Colin Kaepernick to Rashard Matthews with 13 seconds left. So you figure that Boise State's just going to take a knee, run the clock out, and go to overtime. Instead, Kellen Moore, with 9 seconds left, takes a shot downfield, and on a Hail Mary to Titus Young, the receiver, lays out for it, drags it in, and lands at the 5-yard line with 1 second left, calls Boise State's last time out. You figure Boise State is going to come on. Kyle Brotzman has a chance to kick a 26-yard field goal and keep Boise State's national championship hopes alive. Instead, from the middle of the field, the kicker hooks it wide right, and we have overtime in Nevada. Now, Boise State does get the ball first, and they do not manage to score a touchdown, so Kyle Brotzman, who missed the field goal earlier, comes on with a chance to redeem himself. Again, the ball is spotted in the middle of the field, and on a 29-yard field goal, the kicker hooks it wide left, and we have pandemonium in Nevada as they start on the 25-yard line, already in field goal range. They are not able to get a first down, but their kicker comes on, and on a 34-yard try, nails it, as Nevada upsets number 4 Boise State 34-31. crushing Boise State's hope of possibly getting into a national championship game and even being BCS bound. So, tragic loss for Boise State. We will not see them in a championship game. Now, the Saturday nightcap game was Bedlam in Oklahoma State, and this was a game that featured number 13 OU versus number 9 Oklahoma State. There were 34 points scored in the final 6 minutes. Two touchdowns from OU came on Landry Jones's 61st and 62nd pass attempts. They were an 86-yard touchdown and a 76-yard touchdown, respectively. Landry Jones finishes the game 37 of 62 for 468 yards and 4 touchdowns with 3 interceptions. And OU goes on to upset Oklahoma State 47-41, and with a BCS release, Oklahoma is now number 9, Oklahoma State number 14, and Texas A&M number 18. So OU, with that 3-way tie in the Big 12 South, will now go on to play in the Big 12 championship game. This is their 7th Big 12 championship game. Now on to the SEC again. Number 12 Arkansas upsets number 5 LSU 31-23, and this crushes the Tigers' hopes of possibly sneaking into a BCS bowl game if Auburn does go on and beat South Carolina in the SEC championship, or even getting an at-large bid into a BCS bowl. The Tigers drop to number 10 in the BCS rankings, and Arkansas moves up to number 7, so they are looking to possibly have an at-large bid in the BCS. Now, on to a couple of more top 25 games that were close. Number 20, Utah outlasts BYU 17-16. All 17 of Utah's points were scored in the 4th quarter, and the game ends on a BYU 42-yard field goal that is blocked by Utah as they hang on to beat BYU 17-16. And number 24, Iowa's woes continue as they lose to Minnesota 24-27. Minnesota scores the go-ahead touchdown with 4:31 left in the game. This is Iowa's 3rd straight loss. A couple of weeks ago, they were 7-2 and looking to possibly be in the talks of that Big Ten championship, or be the Big Ten champion. However, with those 3 straight losses, they finished the season at 7-5 and fall out of the top 25. Now, some other top 25 games. The Big 12 North champion had yet to be determined coming into Saturday. Number 15, Nebraska, had a chance to stake their claim. All they had to do was beat Colorado, and they are in, and they take care of business 45-17. Taylor Martinez did not play with that toe and ankle injury that he sustained last week in the loss to Texas A&M. And it will be interesting to see if he will play in the Big 12 championship game. It's still undecided whether he will. So a great matchup set, as this is Nebraska's 6th appearance in the Big 12 championship game to OU's 7th appearance. 2 very historic programs, and Nebraska's farewell tour to the Big 12. We will find out if they will be able to win the Big 12 championship game and get the Big 12's BCS bid in the Fiesta Bowl. Now, number 3 TCU was comforted by the fact that Boise State lost, since they had the opportunity to hold on to their number 3 bid, looking for a bid in the Rose Bowl possibly. They handled New Mexico easily 66-17. The other team vying for that Rose Bowl spot was number 6 Stanford playing Oregon State. They roll 38-0. Andrew Luck has another fantastic game. He's still in the Heisman races, though right now, as long as Cam Newton has a fantastic game against South Carolina, it appears to be all but wrapped up for him. And on to the Big Ten race, where you have another 3-way tie for the top. Number 7, Wisconsin, was playing Northwestern after hanging 83 against Indiana 2 weeks ago. Wisconsin goes for 70 against Northwestern as they win 70-23. Number 8, Ohio State, playing against Michigan. They roll easily 37-7 in the vintage 1942 uniforms that they had, honoring that 1942 national championship team. And the other game in that 3-way tie was number 10, Michigan State, playing Penn State. They win 28-22, surviving a 19-point 4th quarter by Penn State. And your final BCS rankings shake out this way. At number 5, it is Wisconsin. Number 6, Ohio State. And number 8, Michigan State. So Wisconsin will win the Big Ten title for this year and go on to play in the Rose Bowl. Now, a couple of other matchups that you had. Notre Dame gets their first win against USC since 2001, winning 20-16. And this Notre Dame scores the go-ahead touchdown with 2:23 left in the game, so a great win for Brian Kelly and his program. And the rest of the matchups that you see this week were really a bunch of in-state rivalries, most of them going according to plan. Number 16, Virginia Tech beats Virginia 37-7. Number 18, South Carolina takes care of Clemson 29-7. We will see South Carolina play against Auburn, hoping to spoil their championship hopes. We did see Auburn beat South Carolina earlier in the year, so that will be an interesting matchup in the SEC championship game. Number 22, Florida State playing Florida. They win 31-7, and there was a little bit more than bragging rights at stake, as with this win, Florida State earns their spot in the ACC championship game and will play against Virginia Tech on Saturday. Number 25, Mississippi State beats Ole Miss 31-23, and South Florida tops Miami 23-20 in overtime, and with a 7-5 season finish for Miami, Randy Shannon is now out as head coach. The head coach search begins at the University of Miami. And Georgia takes care of Georgia Tech 42-34. With this win, Georgia is now bowl eligible. And of course, a big in-state rivalry that we all cared about here in Austin, Texas. The Texas Longhorns versus the number 17 Texas A&M Aggies. The Horns were not able to get it done as they lose 24-17 here on a cold night in Austin. We will have a separate broadcast that will wrap up the Horn season, including this game, so tune in, find that. Otherwise, we will be back next week with your Week 14 update in college football with championship games and final BCS rankings. Check us out next week. Until then, I'm Garrett Green. Have a good evening, and hook 'em horns.